because okay, so we should start again. Sorry about that. Okay, chapter 9, summary verses. In the beginning, Krishna explains who is qualified to hear about him and from him, and these are only the devotees. Only they can understand. Only they are qualified to hear, because they are not non-envious. They like Krishna. They appreciate him. They have affection for him. Just like in the material world, if you want to hear, if you want to know something about someone, you don't usually go to the person who is very envious of this person that you want to get knowledge. Why? Because you know that the picture of this person will be severely distorted. He'll be depicted in very bad light by the person who is envious of him, right? So in the same way, Krishna wants to reveal his opulence, his glory only to the devotees, because they are not envious of him. What's the use of Krishna interfering and imposing himself on people who hate him? He doesn't do that. Okay, so in the beginning, Krishna explains who is qualified to hear about him. Only the devotees can know Krishna in truth. And then in next section from 4 to 10, Krishna explains again the transcendental knowledge, Sambandha Gyan, which was already explained in 7th chapter. But now in chapter 9, he not only presents the constituents of the field of activity, Krishna, the soul, and the material energy, but he also explains the relationship between them. And this relationship is Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Although Krishna is the supreme controller, the material world nevertheless functions independently, and Krishna thus remains neutral and detached. So this is in a nutshell Krishna's relationship with his energies. And then after presenting this knowledge, again, as in chapter 7, we observe different reactions. Different people react in different way because we have free will. And there are people who are classified as demons. They reject the Lord. There are people who surrender to the Lord. These are the pure devotees, Hare Krishna. And devotees in general. And then you have other types of people, worshippers of Brahman or demigod worshippers. The same categories were described in chapter 7. Then in the next section, Krishna explains how, although there are different types of worshippers, all of them, they actually worship only him. He is the real object of worship. People may think that they're worshiping the demigods, or they're worshiping Brahman, or whatever, but Krishna is giving the power to the demigods. Krishna is the Brahmanohi Pratishtaham. He is the basis of the impersonal Brahman. So in fact, although people don't know that, they're worshiping only him. And this is very important. There are no, as we mentioned in the beginning, there are no two objects of worship. There is only Janmani Yasyata. Krishna is the origin of everything. He is the supreme absolute truth. Mata Parataram Nenat Kinchit Asti Dhananjaya. So Krishna supplies the result, the fruit of all the religious activities. Even if people don't worship him directly, he supplies, he gives the liberation to the Gyanis, he gives the heavenly enjoyment of the karmis, he gives the mystic powers of the yogis. So in fact, they actually worship only him, although they do it in an improper way. Krishna will explain this. Yepi ma devata bhaktya bhajante shadadan vidaha tepi mam eva kauntya bhajati avidi purvakam. All of those people who worship the demigods, they actually worship me, Krishna says, but they do it improperly.
Indirectly.
And then after explaining that He is the actual object of worship. And the last section of this chapter, Krishna again goes back to the pure devotees and glorifies them. He glorifies the process of pure devotional service, so much so that even if a devotee of Krishna is engaged in abominable activities, Krishna very firmly and non-equivocally states that he must be considered a sadhu. So much, the glory of devotional service is so exalted, and devotees are so dear to Krishna that even if one of them, or many of them, or all of them are engaged in abominable activities, Krishna says that they must be considered as saintly people, and if we don't follow that, then we are offenders. And Krishna says, my order is the authority behind this. Okay, so this is 9th chapter in a summary.
Nutshell.
Okay.
So maybe we can read the verses from the first part. These are verses 1 to 3. I'll just read them. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha idam tu te guhyattamam pravakshami anasuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajgyatva mokshase shubhat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Verse 2. Rajavidya Rajguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartum Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. And verse 3, Ashradadana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapyamam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world.
Okay, so I'd like to start by reading, by requesting some of you to read an excerpt from Prabhupada's purport to verse 1. The very beginning of Bhagavad-gita, the first chapter, is more or less.
Yes, this is the third paragraph.
Can somebody read this, please?
The very beginning of Bhagavad-gita is the third paragraph.
Do you have Bhagavad-gita in front of you?
Hare Krishna. Do you mean to go back to the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter
No,
1?
I mean first verse number 1 of chapter 9.
Oh, okay.
The third paragraph there.
Oh, okay.
If somebody could read it for us.
Yeah. Okay. The translation, those who are not.
The very beginning. No, the first. Okay, we're reading the purport to verse 1.
Yeah.
And the third paragraph of the purport. It begins the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter.
Okay.
Did you find it?
Well, I'm in 9, text 3.
Text 1.
Oh, text 1.
Third paragraph.
Okay. I got it. Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
The third one. Mm-hmm. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the second and third chapters, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service. And because they bring enlightenment and Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in the 9th chapter deal with unalloyed, pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential.
Thank you, Madhu.
One, okay.
Thank you very much. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to everybody to hear that, because this is the Vedic idea. Before dramatic performance, or before musical performance, or before imparting a lesson or knowledge, this knowledge should be glorified, or before taking prasadam, or during prasadam. You know what Vedas recommend. The host should encourage the guests to take more prasadam, while glorifying the specific benefits and specific tastes and rasas of the prasadam that he has served and serving them. So in the same way, before we approach this the most confidential knowledge, we should glorify this knowledge again. Okay, so therefore, in this way, we are more eager to assimilate, to understand this knowledge, and to apply. Okay, 7 and 8 chapters have described bhakti. Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes. Yes.
I just have a question, because when I hear the word confidential, it makes me think of something that you shouldn't tell to other people. You know, and it's like, then we say you have to give this first before, you know, and you have to glorify this, and then the devotees go preach on the street, and you know, and just try and tell as many people about this as possible. So is the word confidential used in the same way as, you know, as like a confidential document, or is it just, you know, like
classified
confidential in a different way? Yeah. That's what I think when I hear
actually,
confidential.
very good question. You're right, Prabhu. It is confidential also in this sense, as you just have described, because at the end, the last chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Krishna will explain that this knowledge shouldn't be given just to anybody. This knowledge should not be given to people who are envious, people who have not performed tapasya, people who are non-devotees. So it is confidential in this sense. But then in a purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that the devotees are more merciful than Krishna, and they want to purify, to benefit as many living entities as possible. At the same time, we know that the 9th offense against the holy name is to preach to the faithless. So there are certain aspects of this confidential knowledge which are not to be revealed lightly to a general audience. They are only for devotees. But because here we are in devotee environment, we are discussing Bhagavad-gita as Krishna recommended amongst devotees. Therefore, we are allowing ourselves the liberty to glorify this confidential knowledge fully, because there are no outsiders, and there is no need for us to be afraid. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Yeah, so basically interesting how this knowledge is classified into confidential, more confidential, and most confidential. So confidential is the spiritual knowledge as a general, the knowledge that we are not this body, we are spirit souls. And then more confidential is the knowledge which already speaks about devotional service or our connection with God. But still, this devotional service can be mixed with different material, unpure motivations, desire for gain, desire for liberation. So still, this knowledge is considered, although considered more confidential, it is not the highest knowledge. Yes. And then
Could you please take away all the luggage? Just everything that you have here, that somebody can come and take, like this thing,
Sure.
everything just in one go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think to
Pick up everything and
Yeah.
just, otherwise it will be
sorry.
endless. No, it's okay. Whatever belongs to you guys, just take it away. Maybe this one also. This one.
This bag. Yeah.
Somebody will come and take it also. Just place it outside.
so the most confidential knowledge is the knowledge that
This one as well.
No, but
Yeah, I think belongs to you as well. Sorry.
so the most confidential knowledge is the knowledge that describes our relationships with God in their purest form, uncontaminated with any personal desire, everything for Krishna and nothing for me. So this is very, very rare, and that's why it's considered the most confidential. And in this 9th chapter, particularly this subject matter will be discussed. How to serve Krishna, the Supreme Lord, without any personal selfish motivation. How completely to surrender to the Supreme Lord. This is the idea. This is the goal. We have a class. Yes.
So, this pure unalloyed devotion service has the power to overcome the attachment to karma, jnana, and yoga, because it gives very special taste, the most exalted and powerful spiritual pleasure. And by experiencing this pleasure, everything else appears second, third class. Just like in Bhagavatam, it is stated that yatma suprasidati, ahaituki apratihata yatma suprasidati. In order to satisfy completely the soul, this devotional service should be uninterrupted and causeless. That means without personal motivation, material motivation. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Bhaktavatsala Prabhu. Humble basis. All goes to Prabhupada. Welcome. Oops. Okay, so in order to attain this level of Ananya Bhakti, one should understand Krishna fully. Therefore, in chapter 9, Krishna describes his opulence again, Aishwarya, in order to inspire devotion in the hearts of the non-envious person. This is Krishna's goal. By presenting myself in truth as I am, therefore Bhagavad-gita as it is, then Krishna hopes that this will invoke devotion in the hearts of the non-envious person. We were talking with Tulsi Prabhu yesterday that when in the material world people are advertising something, they are advertising certain material object normally by deception, right? They don't actually give you the truth about the object that the goods that they advertise. But Krishna, he presents the reality. So this is his way of advertising, and he doesn't do it because he has something to gain, because he is independent and self-sufficient. But he does this because it is good for us. It is in our own interest to surrender to him fully. And when at the end of Bhagavad-gita, Krishna says, Sarva dharvam parityaja, mamekam sharanam vraja, surrender, give up all other religions and surrender to me, just surrender to me. Krishna actually doesn't say this as a kind of tyrant or autocrat who demands surrender from his subjects, but he simply presents his own level of surrender to his parts and parcels, because he's already pure devotee of all of us. And his message is, please come up to this highest level of consciousness because only there we can have meaningful and true relationship. Love is possible only when there is selfless service. I am already serving everybody selflessly, including you. So if you want to have the real thing, you have to also come up to this level of consciousness. Otherwise, our relationship will be there, but it will be tainted, it will be hampered by material desires. And these are our material desires, not Krishna's material desires, because Krishna doesn't need material things. He's Atmarama. He has millions of goddess of fortune who serve him. Okay. So another thing that is important to know, that this 9th chapter of Bhagavad-gita is meant especially for those who have already accepted Shri Krishna as a Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is meant for devotees. If a non-devotee reads this chapter will appear to him as something different from what it actually is. So it's meant for devotees. That's it. So the opening of chapter 9 are similar, as we mentioned, to the opening verses of chapter 7. In both places, Krishna stresses the importance of hearing from him, and he explains that non-envy of him is the requirement for receiving confidential knowledge. So envy and lack of faith are disqualifications for understanding Krishna. So what is envy? Envy is defined by Baladev Vidyabhushan as the proclivity to find fault even where there are only perfect transcendental qualities. This is envy. So ruined by this envious mentality, even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad-gita very, very inaccurately. Because they are envious of Krishna, all their commentaries are useless. We shouldn't read them. We should only accept the devotional commentaries on Gita. Why? Because Krishna himself says that only the devotees can know him in truth. Okay, so don't hear what non-devotees have to say about Krishna. It is poison. What is this verse?
Avishnava Mukhodgirnam Putaharikatam Ritam Shravanam Naiva Kartavyam Sarpo Chishta Yatapaya.
Okay, and then the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence." If you remember the beginning of 7th chapter, Krishna said something similar. There he said that once you acquire this knowledge, there will be nothing more for you to know. And here in chapter 9, Krishna goes a step further. He says, once you acquire this knowledge and realization, you'll be relieved of the miseries of material existence, because this is the real meaning of acquiring knowledge. Knowledge has to be applied in practical day-to-day life and should lead to liberation. So there are 3 important words in the first 3 verses of chapter 9. So these words are jnana in verse 1. Krishna says, Pravakshyami anasuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam. Jnana is translated as knowledge, and vijnana, realized knowledge. Or Prabhupada sometimes translates this jnana vijnana as theoretical wisdom and scientific knowledge. When the knowledge is theoretical wisdom is applied in life successfully, then it becomes scientific knowledge, because science means that you have to make things work. Real science means you know how to operate the field of activity successfully according to Krishna's rules. Okay, so the first word is jnanam, knowledge. Then the second word of verse 2 is vidya, and the third in verse 3 is dharma. So these 3 words, jnana, vidya, and dharma, in the first 3 verses, it is important to know that they refer only to bhakti, to pure devotional service. Krishna says jnana and vidya and dharma, but what he means is pure bhakti. Okay, so don't be confused. And pure bhakti refers to Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Artanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedam, to the 9 processes of devotion service. So Srila Baladev Vibhushan explains why this is so in his commentary. He says that the actions of bhakti, such as kirtana, arise from Chit Shakti, the energy of the Lord, which manifests spiritual knowledge and can be thus considered knowledge. So bhakti arises from Chit Shakti, which is the knowledge potency, and in this way bhakti can be considered jnana. And also, in addition, jnana literally means that by which something is known. That's the meaning of jnana. It's the light of understanding, of awareness. You're in a dark room and you don't know yourself, you don't know the environment, and then the knowledge, the torchlight of knowledge reveals everything, reveals the objects around you, reveals yourself. So jnana literally means that by which something is known. So since the Lord is known by bhakti, bhakti is called jnana. Okay. And then vidya is also knowledge about Krishna, and then dharma is Bhagavad Dharma. So all these 3 terms, they refer only to bhakti. Okay. So this special type of jnana is different from the well-known jnana described in the first 6 chapters. This jnana described in chapters 1 to 6 is the knowledge in the mode of goodness. It teaches that we are not the material body, but the spirit soul, which is very important, but this is not the ultimate jnana, the ultimate knowledge. So the jnana described in chapter 9 is beyond the modes of material nature because it reveals the spiritual activities of the soul. It's one thing to know that you're the soul. A different thing is to know what are your inherent activities, what is your inherent nature, intrinsic occupation, devotional service. Many people who know that they are the soul and have realized it to some degree, they have no idea that they are servants of Krishna. Therefore, Krishna says, Manushanam sahasrashu kaschit yatadisidaye yatina apisidanam kaschit mam veti tattvataha. Okay? Clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so then verse 2, we're gonna unpack a little bit this verse now, because this is one of the most important verses in the whole Vedic literature. I will pay a little bit more attention. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. So, this particular type of jnana, so this jnana actually is pure bhakti, okay? This particular type of jnana is the king of education. Why? Because it is the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of the Vedas and different kinds of philosophy. Why is this so? Because
Bhakti Misrita.
bhakti is siddha.
Isn't it like it's talking about bhakti, pure bhakti? That's why this is the purest and the highest, most confidential knowledge.
Shuddha.
Shuddha, okay. So this is so because all knowledge must lead to pure bhakti. Because even if you have knowledge, let's say, about the material world, how it works, if you just operate in the material field, and even if you're very successful, still you have to take birth again in the material world. Still you have to suffer the threefold miseries. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshanu, Darshanam. So that means you have not reached the ultimate, the essence of this knowledge, which is to surrender to Krishna and to live, to get out of this material world forever. Okay, so Therefore, this knowledge is the king of education, Raja Vidya. So it is the master of all other types of knowledge, and all other type of knowledge are relative to this knowledge. That means you may, I mean, again, you may be very expert physician, but your knowledge in the medical field is relative to the knowledge about Krishna and pure devotion service, because why you help people to have good health? Because they need to engage in devotional service to Krishna. This will help them. And if you just enable people to feel good, to have good health, and they engage in sinful activities, your knowledge is not only imperfect, but actually may be harmful to people. Better they don't get good health if they not use this health in proper way. Okay, so it is the ultimate knowledge, the Raja Vidya, the king of all education. It is both jnana and vijnana. That means theoretical wisdom and scientific knowledge. That means the knowledge has to be applied properly. The Vedas, Prabhupada says, are not meant for the recreation of armchair speculators, but they are meant for cultivation of character. And character means applied knowledge, virtues, the innate qualities of the soul, the 26 qualities of the devotee. These are the qualities that are to be cultivated by the proper application of this knowledge. It is the most confidential because it reveals the transcendental activities of the soul. It is the purest because it purifies the results of all sin without the support of any other processes. The devotees don't need to engage to perform any type of prayashchita or atonement. The engagement in sadhana bhakti is enough. It is purifying all types of karma and all types of sinful reactions. Okay, it awards direct perception of the Lord and direct experience of one's constitutional position of the Lord's eternal servant. That means pratyaksha vagimam dharmam. It is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means sense perception. We know that there are three pramanas, three evidence for anything that we accept. Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Shabda. So pratyaksha, the sense perception, it is well known as imperfect. It is imperfect because our senses are imperfect. Our consciousness is imperfect. It is material consciousness. It is clouded. But once we purify our consciousness, then pratyaksha becomes divya pratyaksha. With our own senses, which are spiritualized, we can directly perceive Krishna. And then this is different types of pratyaksha. So it is the direct experience of Krishna in our life. And this is unique only for bhakti. No other process can award such perfection. It is the pure perfection of religion because all religion must culminate in pure devotional service. It is so potent that even without performing the regular religious procedures, it can raise one to the highest perfection. It is happily performed, susukham, because it does not deny the senses, but rather uses them in their natural capacity, hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna, dancing for his pleasure, honoring prasadam, etc. It is very joyfully performed because it is natural for the soul. It is not like the dry, troublesome, painful process of jnana or yoga or even karma. It is easy to execute because it does not depend on material opulence and can be carried out even in the most poverty-stricken condition. Patram pushpam palam toyam. Doesn't matter how rich or poor we are, we can always worship the Lord. We can always chant the holy name. And it yields results that are never perish. They are eternal results. It is eternal because it does not end after attaining perfection. A real devotion service actually starts on the liberated platform. So this is verse number 2. Little bit unpacked. And now Tulsi, she wants to read something from the purports. commentaries.
Yes, dear devotees, this verse has a long purport, so we can go through few points in this purport and we can discuss them. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start with the third paragraph from the purport. Towards the end of the third paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is saying,
Which chapter? Which text?
it's a text 2 in the purport, the third paragraph. The Bhagavad-gita, especially from the second chapter on. Do you follow me?
Yeah. Do you want me to go through?
I'll just read something from this,
Okay, great.
just towards the end of the paragraph.
Okay.
How can the soul, which is so active within this body, be inactive after being liberated from the body? It is always active. If it is eternal, then it is eternally active. And its activities in the spiritual kingdom are the most confidential part of spiritual knowledge. These activities of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here and consisting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. So what is this most confidential knowledge, which, if we look at the verse itself, the beginning, the verse starts with the words Raja Vidya. Raja means king and Vidya means knowledge. So the king of all knowledge, the most confidential knowledge. So from here, from this part of the purport, we learn these are the spiritual activities of the soul. What the soul is doing in the spiritual world, this is the most confidential knowledge. And in other words, we call this devotional service. Yes? Is it?
Yes.
So this is like a explanation of the first word from the verse, Raja Vidya, the king of all knowledge. Then the next paragraph, someone may, sorry, not the next, the fifth paragraph, as explained in the 28th verse of the second chapter.
You want me to go through?
Yes.
As explained in the 28th verse of the 7th chapter, a person who has completely ended the reaction of all sinful activities and who is fully engaged in pious activities, being freed from the duality of this material world, becomes engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord are already freed from all reaction. This sentiment is confirmed in Padma Purana. Should I skip the Shruti end? For those who are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all sinful reactions, whether fructified in the stalk or in the form of a seed, gradually vanish. Therefore, the purified potency of devotional service is very strong, and it is called Pavitram Uttamam, the purest. Uttam means transcendental. Tamosh means the material world or darkness. And Uttama means that which is transcendental to material activities. Devotional service are never to be considered material, although sometimes it appears that devotees are engaged just like an ordinary man, one who can see and is familiar with the devotional service will know that they are not material activities. They are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the material moods of nature.
Hare Krishna. So I see Madan Gopal has a question, just to say 2 sentences. So here is described the next term from the verse, Pavitram Uttamam. Pavitram means pure, and Uttamam, the highest. So this is the thing that purifies us the most, the purest of all.
Antiseptic.
Yes, and Srila Prabhupada is explaining that devotional service is so pure and so powerful that just by getting in contact with it, one can immediately become purified from everything he did before. It doesn't matter what. Everything will be, all our previous activities will be purified. So this shows the purifying potency of Krishna and of devotional service of Krishna. It is the purest knowledge. Madam Gopal?
Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna says, we are freed from all sinful reactions and things, is it like we're free from the illusion of the reaction being a sinful reaction? Like we might still experience the same things, but because we have this knowledge, we don't see it as as what somebody who doesn't have this knowledge is, but we would still go through the same things and like do the same type of work. But because like the illusion is gone, we're freed from it. Or would this mean that like we're completely freed from these things and we won't have to experience them? Or because of like the different perspective, it's just not recognized as as the same thing as a materialist? Or is it really just Krishna saying like these things are just not gonna these are not gonna happen, and you're free from these things and you don't have to even experience them? Or is it more like now that you know this knowledge, you're free from like the thought of it being a simple reaction, and you just understand it as as
Yes.
Krishna and these things?
Well, it means both. It means that whatever wrong we did in our past, and there was bad result from it, now this bad result is gone because we are engaged in pure devotional service. But also, it means that by being engaged in pure devotional service, gradually we will become completely free from the illusion that materially we can be happy, that the material life can make us completely happy and satisfied. All this illusion will be gone. So both at the same time, devotional service is purifying us from the illusion of material existence, and at the same time, devotional service is completely removing the bad results from our previous bad activities, bad actions. Is that okay?
Yes, that was a good
Guruji,
answer.
can I add one thing?
Yes.
So as far as we start our devotional service, we have different stages: Kanishta Sreni, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttam Adhikari. So as a Kanishta Adhikari, actually we are getting sufferings, material sufferings, and we sometimes get puzzled. As I am in the devotionals and devotional activities says, all the illusion and all the pain is going to be gone. But in the Kanishta level, we still will feel sometimes, because we don't have open eyes yet to get in the purest position like Uttam Adhikari. So gradually, when it is improving the devotional service, the tolerance level also going in improving. So in some point, we actually not about thinking even all the material pain and everything. So pain could be there, but our feeling is going to be, it's like, okay, that are all pain. I don't need to worry about that. So it's my like, because of my devotional service stage from Kanishta Adhikari to Madhyam Adhikari to Uttam Adhikari is gradually finishes. So that is the way, basically, when we are in material world, getting pain, but we are diminishing all the pain, getting in the just pleasure, anandam. Isn't the way it works?
Yes, when we advance, our illusion will be reduced. And then also our attachment to this world will be destroyed, we could say. And then the same situation, we will experience it in a different way. Like, for example, if you see that someone is scratching a car on the street, but that's not your car, do you care?
I care, but I cannot go involve myself because
Yes. Yes, little
I'm
bit.
fine.
You see something rock is happening, but anyway. But now if you see someone is doing the same with your car, how are you going to react?
Hey man, you should
My
not.
car
Like
is
all the
just
foolish.
brand new. I just bought it yesterday. I gave so much money. No, how is possible? So because we identify with matter and we take it as a personal thing, and then it creates certain emotions in us, happiness or distress or suffering and so on and so on. So once this illusion is destroyed, that wait a minute, I don't have anything to do with matter, then our suffering will be also destroyed. We won't get so much involved in all these material situations. That's why in Bhagavad-gita there are many, many, many verses where Krishna is explaining the advanced transcendentalist, he accepts the different positions in this material world in the same way. Suffering and distress, gain and loss, warm and cold, he's taking them in the same way because he understands, oh, just the modes of material nature are changing and their results are also changing. But I don't have anything to do with them because I'm spirit, I'm spiritual soul. So yes, once our consciousness is advanced, then we will identify less with this and then we will suffer less.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Prabhu.
Yes.
So in the situation with the car, so should we just we see it happening, but we wouldn't be we'll be detached from the situation. You see it, but it won't have an effect. We see it in another way.
Yes, and
We
even,
don't take it personal.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you get
Mhm.
involved somehow or other, your
Mhm.
involvement will be different. It won't
Yes.
be, oh, this is my car and I'm so attached to it.
Mm.
Just see now what happened.
Mhm,
Like, for
mhm.
example, I mean, many times we saw car crashes on the street, yes?
Mhm. Yes.
But because we are not involved in it, and you just pass with your car and just look at it and you say, oh, a car crash, and then you continue, and it doesn't really involve you more much emotionally. But now if you are part of the car crash, then it's a different thing, then it becomes very personal.
Mhm, mhm.
But that's the beginning of Bhagavad-gita, right? Arjuna had many had fought many battles before, and he was very competent warrior. But when he had to fight with his own relatives, then he started to propose all these very exalted, very lofty arguments, quoting Shastra, etc. But this was simply covering his own material attachment. So therefore, Krishna was not impressed by all these quotes from Shastra and all this wisdom. Therefore, Krishna told him, "Ashochanan vashochastvam pragyavadam chabhashase." You speak like a very learned man, but those who are truly learned, they never speak like you. So it's material attachment.
Yes. Yes.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, Krishna.
So let's continue with the next paragraph. Who will read? Mataji Pushpanjali. It is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect.
Mhm. Okay. I keep going. I'm on my phone, and I'll come. What it is said that the execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the results directly. This direct result is actually perceived, and we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy names of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, in course of chanting without offenses, feels some transcendental pleasure and very quickly becomes purified of all material contamination. This is actually seen. Furthermore, if one engages not only in hearing, but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional activities as well, or if he engages himself in helping the missionary activities of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one becomes pure.
Haribo, Jai.
Haribo, Haribo.
So this describes the part from the verse which is Pratyaksha-vagamam. Pratyaksha-vagamam. Pandava Prabhu explained that this means that practically you can experience that the process is working. It's not just some theory, someone is explaining you, oh, devotional service is very nice, and it is doing this and that. No, you feel it. You experience it in your life. This is what Srila Prabhupada is explaining. If someone is chanting Hare Krishna, in course of chanting without offenses, feel some transcendental pleasure. So you experience happiness by just following this process. This is the idea. It's not just theoretical knowledge. It's very practical, down-to-earth knowledge in our life. And it can make us completely happy, satisfied, fulfilled.
Mm-hmm. So true. Yes.
Thank you. And then next
Thank
word
you.
from the verse is dharmam or dharmyam. Sorry, just for the previous point. After that, in the purport, we have the example of Narada Muni. He's basically the proof how this process is pratyaksha-vagamam, because he engaged in the practical activities of devotional service, and just by doing that, he's describing how his life was completely elevated, how he associated with great Bhaktivedantas, how he took food remnants from them, and his consciousness was elevated. He became completely detached from the material lifestyle, and he became completely attached to Krishna. So this result came just by doing practical devotional service. This is the example Srila Prabhupada is giving in the purport, that this process is practical, and practically you can experience the result from it. And then if you move little further in the purport, the next paragraph starts with the word dharmyam means the path of religion. Can you see this? Maybe Bhaktavatsala or Madan Gopal can read.
Which paragraph? Are we just going on to the next paragraph?
Yes.
Paragraph 8. All right.
The word,
In the Vedanta Sutra.
no, we go a little further ahead.
Okay.
After the two verses quoted,
okay. The word dharmyam means the path of religion. Narada was actually a son of a maidservant. He had no opportunity to go to school. He was assisting his mother, and fortunately, his mother rendered some service to the devotees. The child Narada also got the opportunity, and simply by association, achieved the highest goal of all religion. The highest goal of all religion is devotional service. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sa vai pumsham paradharmo yato bhaktir adok saje. Religious people generally do not know the highest perfection of religion is attainment of devotional service. As we have already discussed in regard to the last verse of chapter 8, Vidusa Yajnesu Tapasu Chaiva. Generally, Vedic knowledge is required for all self-realization. But here, although Narada never went to the school of the spiritual master and was not educated in the Vedic principles, he acquired the highest results of Vedic study. This process is so potent that even without performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? This can this is also confirmed in Vedic literature. Acharyavam Puruso Veda. One who is in association with great acharyas, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Vedas, can become familiar with all the knowledge necessary for realization.
Yeah, thank you very much. So here this word shows actually devotional service is the highest dharma.
Get that. Could you try again?
Hare Krishna. Sorry.
So yeah, devotional service is the highest religious principle. There is nothing higher than this. One can do all kind of pious activities, but nothing can be compared with devotional service, with bhakti, with performing with love and devotion something for Krishna. And how can we understand the technicalities of this devotional service? In this part, it was explained, Acharya Van Purusha Veda. One should approach Acharya. Only from Acharya we can understand Veda. Only by following the Guru Parampara or the disciplic succession, we can understand properly the process of devotional service. And then the last one, Bhaktavatsala Prabhu, you want to read? Next paragraph.
Re-roll, yes. The process of devotional service is very happy one, Susukham. Why? Devotional service consists of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So one can simply hear the chanting of the glories of the Lord, or can attend philosophical lectures on transcendental knowledge given by authorized acharyas. Simply by sitting, one can learn. Then one can eat the remnants of the food offered to God, nice palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is joyful. One can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. He is ready to accept from the devotee any kind of offering, never mind what. Even a leaf, a flower, a bit of fruit, or a little water, which are all available in every part of the world, can be offered by any person, regardless of social position, and will be accepted if offered with love. There are many instances in history. Simply by tasting the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, great sages like Sant Kumars became great devotees. Therefore, the devotional service is very nice and it can be executed in a happy mood. God accepts only the love with which things are offered to him.
Yes,
Continue.
Little more.
Okay. It is said here that this devotional service is eternally existing. It is not as the Mayavadi philosophers claim. Although they sometimes take to so-called devotional service, their idea is that as long as they are not liberated, they will continue their devotional service. But at the end, when they become liberated, they will become one with God. Such temporary time serving devotional service is not accepted as pure devotional service. Actual devotional service continues even after liberation. When the devotee goes to the spiritual planet in the kingdom of God, he is also engaged there in serving the Supreme Lord. He does not try to become one with the Supreme Lord.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so these two paragraphs, they explain the last two words from the verse, Susukam, which means joyfully performed or bringing happiness. Srila Prabhupada explained very nicely how each and every of the activities of devotional service makes you naturally happy. And we know this by our example. To take prasadam makes you happy. To sing and dance makes you happy. That's why people are outside there doing it all the time. To listen nice stories about Krishna makes you happy. devotional service is not difficult by nature to perform. Like if you take the other spiritual process, in the beginning they are very, what is the word? They make you unhappy by doing them. And then the hope is that at the end, when you get their result, then you will feel happy. But devotional service is not like that. In the beginning, you are happy. In the middle of devotional service, you are happy. And at the end, you are again happy. This is the nature of devotional service. And also devotional service is avyaya, means it's eternal. Now we are doing devotional service. When we go in the spiritual world again, we will do devotional service. This is different than the concept of the Mayavadis. They think, okay, now I will be engaged in some kind of activities, and even they can be connected with the service of God. Even the Mayavadis, they can go in the temple and worship the deity. But they know when I become perfect, all this will be gone, because it's ultimately illusion. So I will just stay in some state of impersonal liberation, and I'll be just free from anxieties, problems, and sufferings, and this will be my ultimate state of existence. Whereas devotees, they know, no, what I'm doing now, I'll do the same thing in the spiritual world. Then the fun part will be that now I have material body, and this body is creating problems, like we are getting old, everything becomes difficult, we break our leg, then we cannot do our service, and so on and so on. In the spiritual world, these problems won't be there. You have a spiritual body, and then you will do the same things for Krishna. You can cook for Krishna, you can offer things for Krishna, you can sing for Krishna, you can dance for Krishna. So this is the purport to verse 2 from 9th chapter. It is, as Pandava Prabhu said, very, very important verse. And also it is, if we analyze it like that, word by word, we will see that there are many of the qualities of devotional service described here. So again and again in our spiritual life, we can go back to this verse and the qualities of devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Okay, before we break, then I'd like to finish this section of verses. So now, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the next verse, number 3, answers a question asked by Arjuna, although the question is not explicitly stated in the Bhagavad-gita, but there is a question. And the question is, if this dharma is so easy to execute, as Tulsi Prabhu read, we are reading from Prabhupada's purport, that it is very easy because you just chant and dance and make music and eat prasadam and have fun with the devotees, etc. So, if it's so easy to execute, who will remain in this world? This is the question. And then the answer is, the Lord continued, those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. So, the simple answer is, who will remain in this world? Those who have no faith in this dharma, in bhakti, in Krishna, in Bhagavad-gita. They will remain in the material world because they will not follow. So there are people who, by listening, by hearing from Krishna, as Krishna will now explain about himself, about his energies, there are people who, by listening from him, they naturally develop faith, shraddha, and there are people who don't develop faith. They develop the opposite, envy. They are already envious. When they hear about Krishna, they become even more envious. So those people, they cannot surrender because they don't have faith. Just like when you go to a doctor and he prescribes you medicine and diet, for example, you will follow this only if you have faith in the doctor. If you don't have faith, why making the endeavor? So people don't have faith in bhakti, they don't make the endeavor. So it is important to remind the definition of faith. What is the definition of faith? Here the crucial point is faith.
It's a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. And
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada is paraphrasing it in the purport to verse 3. So let's find it together. Can you see, dear devotees, where in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, in the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is giving the definition of faith?
Shraddha.
Do you manage to find something?
Like Srimad Bhagavatam, he said.
No, no. It's a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm helping you a lot here. Just read carefully the beginning of the purport.
Yeah, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he said that
Okay.
faith is the complete conviction that simply by serving the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, one can achieve all perfection.
Okay, thank you very much.
So this is faith, huh? This is Shraddha. Very important to know this. Because we speak about faith, and faith, Shraddha is the most important thing.
So that means having the very deep, full conviction that if we perform devotional service, nothing else will lack in our life. Neither spiritual nor material. Krishna will completely take care of everything.
Yes.
This is actually the beginning of really applying ourselves in devotional service, because if we don't have this faith, why we are going to do these activities? Wherever is our faith, this is what we are going to do. If we have faith in the money, we'll just make money. If we have faith in
Politics, we will listen to politics.
yes, that through politics we can reform the country, we'll engage in politics. If we have faith in that by going to the cosmos and seeing what's going on the other planets will change the whole humanity, then we are going to do that. Wherever is our faith, this is what we are going to do. So in order to be engaged seriously in the activities of bhakti, we should have this conviction that, okay, just by doing these things for Krishna, actually, I'm having very big input to the fate of the whole humanity. This faith, this full conviction actually will allow us to be seriously engaged in devotional service. Like, an example is coming. Many examples can be given, but one example is coming to my mind. Our Ram Roy Prabhu. So he goes every day for a few hours to chant Hare Krishna. And someone may see him and may say, well, just find to do something more practical. I mean, if you really want to help people, just go cook something, feed them, do something. But he has such a strong faith that by chanting the names of God, this can change the fate of the whole humanity. He is doing it day in and day out. So this is faith.
Okay.
Prabhuji, can I ask one question?
Yes.
Yes, sure.
So what we do in our community, we have faith, like, okay, if I go to the community people, they don't have faith what is Shastra is showing us. From that concept, I can say. But we are going along with them. We are doing the kirtan and everything. Sometimes we go to like recently they have Saraswati Puja. I went there, I gave them calendar. I spoke with them personally, some of them. Here, there is a calendar, need your Ekadashi, and this is time for Varana and stuff, so it's very important. But I went to Saraswati Puja. And my goal was to give them calendar and let them take the Ekadashi. Or going to some Namhato in some houses. They are completely not taking prasadam. They don't even understand too much. They understand, but they don't want to take it. That means there is still ignorance. So this type of things, we are going to material people a lot. But my goal is to implement what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So it is, I can say this is a faith also, definitely.
Well, some people, they are lucky that they were born in the culture of Bhagavata Dharma.
Yeah.
You see, they naturally want to participate in such kind of functions, like you are saying Saraswati Puja and so on and so on. And these are very pious and auspicious events. And just by being there, even if you don't really understand what's going on, you are getting some punya, some pious credit.
Pious activities, going to Sargaluka.
Yes, for example. But then we, as a preachers of pure devotional service, because this is what Mahaprabhu came to give, Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotion. So we, as the representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Srila Prabhupada, no need to say to people that they have to change something in their life as an activity. Rather, we should try to elevate their consciousness by showing them a higher understanding. For example, now they are doing Saraswati Puja, let's say, to get what?
Vidya.
To get knowledge, or I would put it in a different way, to be able to get a good education so that they can make lots of money.
Yeah.
But then now we have to show them that, wait a minute, this is not the highest thing. Money will anyway come in your life. If you have the pious karma to live in America, okay, that means you have some karma to have money as well. So that's not a problem. Rather, you better do whatever you are doing so that you can get something spiritual out of it, some spiritual benefit. So gradually, by giving them transcendental knowledge, we should elevate their consciousness. And then they will do the same things, because this is the culture, this is the spiritual culture. They'll do the same activities, but they'll do it already with a spiritual consciousness, and then they will get a spiritual result out of it. Otherwise, by doing the same things, they will get just material reward, because they don't have spiritual knowledge, spiritual consciousness.
Okay, yeah. We go for telling them, like, you're doing great, that's good. But you see, doing Ekadashi also, you're not going to go to heaven, you're not going to go to hell, you just staying in Krishna consciousness. You might go to Krishna Loka. So this is also good. So do the Ekadashi beside doing this, whatever. I'm not saying you're not coming to Saraswati Puja. Because if I tell them, it's not going to work this way. I rather give a calendar or date. Yeah.
Yeah, Krishna is saying in Bhagavad-gita that one should not disturb the ignorant people by stopping their activities, because they don't know exactly what they are doing. But rather, he has to engage them in actions, in spiritual activities, basically. And then they will make a spiritual advancement.
Okay, thank you.
We don't try so much to explain to people what's the mistakes in their activities. Rather, we just try to engage them in the proper activities, and then automatically they won't be engaging wrong activities.
We tell them to come to Sunday and cut the vegetable.
Yes,
and wash the dishes.
for
We tell
example.
them, and when we sit in the temple, we just hold their hand. Hey, let's go downstairs.
Yes, exactly.
That's it. Let's do some service. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, dear devotee. So we'll have a 10 minutes break or a little more, and then we will continue exactly at 12 o'clock. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So we'll continue with the next section,
Haribol.
verses 4 to 10. I will just read the verses, and then we will continue discussing. So verse 4. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamurtina matstani sarvabhutani na chaham teshu avastitaha. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. Nachamatstani bhutani pashame yogam aishvaryam. Bhuta brinna cha bhuta sto mamatma bhuta bhavana. And yet, everything, everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation. Verse 6. Yata kasha stito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tata sarvani bhutani mat staniti padaraya. Understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me. Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani kalpadao vistrijami aham. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again. Verse 8. Prakritim svam avastabhya visrijami puna puna bhuta gramam imam krishnam avasam prakrite vasat. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again, and under my will, it is annihilated at the end. Na chamam tani karmani nibadnanti dhananjaya udasinavat asinam asaktam teshu karmasu. O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. And verse 10, Maya dyakshena prakriti suyate sachara charam hetunanena kaunteya jagadvi parivartate. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction. O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings, under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so verses 4 to 10 describe the Achintya Bheda relationship between Chitta, Chitta and Ishvara, between Krishna, the spiritual energy, the living entities, and the material world. So the main topic, the main point of what Krishna will say now is that he is all pervading through his Paramatma and Brahman feature. He's maintaining everybody. He's in control of everything. And at the same time, he's aloof, he's independent, he's actually not part of this material creation. So this is the main thing. So he's everywhere, and at the same time, he's on his own planet enjoying his blissful pastimes. So Krishna creates, pervades, and annihilates the entire cosmos through his energy. Although he is the supreme controller, the material world nevertheless functions independently. Independently in the sense that Krishna doesn't need personally to maintain and to control this world. It is done by his energies, just by his will, Satya Sankalpa. Krishna's desire is reality. Okay, as Brahman and Paramatma, Krishna pervades, supports, and controls the entire universe. Since there is no difference between the energy and the source of the energy, in one sense, Krishna is personally present everywhere. Just like we can say in one sense, the king is, or the prime minister, he's present everywhere in the government because of his potency. At the same time, you cannot expect to find the king personally present in each and every office of the of the kingdom or the government or the. So, although Krishna is personally present, we cannot see him. Why? Because we're not qualified. This is what Prabhupada says. Often people demand, show me God. Prabhupada replies, well, you're not qualified to see God. You're not qualified even to see some material personality, elevated in material sense. What to speak about God? So if we want to see God, then we have to qualify ourselves. We have to purify our senses. And what is the meaning of purifying our consciousness? That means to eradicate, to destroy this false concept that I'm God. That's what it means. You don't see God because we think we're God. Simple as it is. This is also I think, Bhagavatam, the demigods. they confirm this. There is a prayer. I forgot which canto. I think 10th canto. Demigods are saying that we think we are separated gods, and therefore we don't. Basically, therefore we are not Krishna conscious fully. We are Krishna conscious, but we are not pure devotees, because there is still this desire to control and enjoy separately. So then the energy of Krishna is everywhere, and when we become transcendently situated, we'll be able to see Krishna everywhere, because he's everywhere through his energy. So then the commentary of verse 4 explains an important point. Krishna's statement that everything is resting on him, Matstani Sarva Bhutani, Srila Prabhupada says that this should not be misunderstood. So Srila Prabhupada explains, the Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and the sustenance of this material manifestation. Or maybe, anyway, I will read this. Sometimes we see a picture of Atlas holding the globe on his shoulders. He seems to be very tired, holding.
That's the next verse.
This is the verse 5, right?
Maybe just before that, we can just say something for the purport of verse 4. Dear devotees, in the verses use the word avyakta murtina. Can you see in the verse? Avyakta murti.
Verse 4, right?
Srila Prabhupada is translating avyakta murti as by the unmanifested form. So Krishna is all pervading, he is entering within everything by his unmanifested form. So basically that means through his energies. Krishna exists everywhere through his energies. And Pandava Prabhu, he already mentioned the example that Srila Prabhupada is giving in the purport about the king. So in the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada is saying, yet one should not conclude that because he is spread all over, he has lost his personal existence. To refute such an argument, the Lord says, I am everywhere and everything is in me, but still I am aloof. So I'm everywhere through my energies, but as a person, I'm aloof, Krishna is saying. For example, a king has a government which is but the manifestation of the king's energy. The different governmental departments are nothing but the energies of the king. And each department is resting on the king's power. But still, one cannot expect the king to be present in every department personally. That is a crude example. Similarly, all the manifestations that we see and everything that exists, both in the material world and in the spiritual world, are resting on the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah, and maybe you can read the other one. The Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and the sustenance of this material manifestation.
And then we go to the next purport, the purport to verse 5, the second sentence. Do you follow? The Lord is not directly concerned with the maintenance and sustenance of this material manifestation. Sometimes we see a picture of Atlas holding the globe on his shoulders. He seems to be very tired, holding this great earthly planet. Such an image should not be entertained in connection with Krishna's upholding this created universe. He says that although everything is resting on him, he is aloof. The planetary systems are floating in the space, and this space is the energy of the Supreme Lord. But he is different from space. He is differently situated. Therefore, the Lord says, although they are situated on my inconceivable energy, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I am aloof from them. This is the inconceivable opulence of the Lord.
Thank you. So why Krishna is independent from the material creation, although he creates and maintains? Because he's not attached to it. He doesn't have anything to gain. He doesn't want to exploit anything here. He's not exploiting by nature. Krishna is pure devotee of his devotees, and we all his devotees. Bhagavan Bhakti Bhaktimam. So therefore he is not attached. Therefore he's independent, because he's not attached. And he's not attached because he has much better things to do in life. He's engaged in blissful pastimes with his loving devotees in Goloka Vrindavana, in Vaikuntha. So he doesn't have anything to gain out of this material creation. Everything is existing. This material creation exists because of the rebellious conditioned souls, because we need to become purified. It's not because of his desire. So Krishna says that because he is the embodiment of all this rasa vaisaha, we know from the Upanishads, Krishna is rasa, and the living entities, they become blissful when they get in contact with Krishna, who is rasa, the spiritual taste of loving relationships. So because Krishna enjoys this, and he's the embodiment of pure transcendental bliss, Akila Rasamrita Murti, he prefers to stay aloof from the material energy and the materialistic living entities. He doesn't need all this material rasa. Thus, they are actually not in him, but rather they are supported by his energy. On the other hand, the Lord is attracted by the pure devotees, and he is very eager to be involved in their personal life and to exchange loving affection, pastimes with them. Therefore, later in this chapter, Krishna will say that I envy no one, nor am partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service to me in devotion, he is a friend, he is in me, and I'm also a friend to him. So in verse 4, Krishna says, Matstani sarva bhutani, all beings are in me. Then in verse 5, Krishna says, he seemingly contradicts himself. He says, Nacha mam stani bhutani. He uses exactly the same words. All beings are not in me. So it seems like contradiction. But then in verse 29, Krishna says again, Maite, the devotee, he is in me. So these apparent contradictions are not actually contradictions. They're manifestation of Krishna's Yogam Aishwaryam, the mystic opulence of Krishna. And this is the definition of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. Krishna is simultaneously, inconceivably one and different from the creation, from material energy, and from the living entities. Although he's the maintainer and he's everywhere, he's not part of the creation in a sense, because you cannot expect to see him everywhere personally, just like the king, the example of the king. And although he's not obliged to be personally present, out of his causeless mercy, he's personally involved in the lives of his devotees. And this personal involvement in the life of the devotees is invoked by what? Now it's your turn to speak.
Personally involved by devotional service.
Yes, by pure devotion. So
Pure devotional service.
Prabhupada explains in a lecture from New York, given in New York in 1966.
Haribo.
Here, this place. Prabhupada explains
Haribol.
Bhagavad-gita lecture on 947. Nine chapter verses 4 to 7. So Prabhupada explains, his energy is spread all over the universe, all over the world, and by his energy, he can be present anywhere and everywhere simultaneously. The conclusion is, when his devotee is there, he can manifest himself everywhere and anywhere. But when there is no devotee, he is not there, although his energy is there. There are many instances. Prahlad Maharaj saw Krishna from the pillar. So this is what involves Krishna's personal presence, the pure love of his pure devotees. Then and there he is present, no matter where. Prahlad Maharaj saw him in the pillar. Abdullah Mangal Thakur saw him, although he was blind. He saw him in his heart. So whenever there is a pure devotee, Krishna is there. Therefore, Krishna says, "I'm not in Vaikuntha. I'm not in the hearts of the yogis. I'm
Wherever my devotees sing my glory."
yes." So otherwise, Krishna is not there. He doesn't need to be there. His energy is there. His impersonal aspect is there. And in one purport to Bhagavad-gita, I believe Baladevi Bhushan was saying that for the atheists, Krishna says, for the atheists, for the non-believers, I practically don't exist. Of course, he exists, but he's beyond their limited range of perception, and because they don't want to have anything to do with him, therefore he doesn't impose himself, and practically he doesn't exist for them. But he exists personally for his pure devotees. Okay. Another important point is that the sunshine is all-pervading expansion of the sun, but the sun still exists individually as individual entity. Therefore, the fact that Krishna is all-pervading doesn't mean that he has lost his personal existence. This is the Mayavadi's idea. So this is not true. Just like it is confirmed in the Upanishad. Although so many units emanate from the Lord, he remains the complete balance. Purnamada, Purnamidam. So in order to enable us to understand this Yogam Aishwaram, Krishna, the inconceivable relation with his energy, Krishna in the next verse, he presents analogy.
This
In
is
verse 6. Understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me. So Krishna is aloof from everything, just like the sky is always aloof from the activities of the wind. Still, the wind is located in the sky, and the sky is all-pervading. So by this example, we may get an idea how the living entities can be simultaneously independent and dependent on the Lord.
so they are always they are within the energy of the Lord,
Yes,
but at the same time they have their individuality and their
their free will,
yes,
their minute free will. So just as the wind can blow everywhere, inside the boundaries set by the sky, in the same way, the living entities, they can go to different locations in the creation of the Lord. Still, whatever they do, they're always under the control of either the spiritual or the material energy. So there, we can say the living entities are independent to choose whether they want to serve Krishna directly or indirectly. But in both cases, whatever they choose, their scope of action is determined by the Lord. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, Manusya, Mama Vartmanu Vartante Manusya Partha Sarvashga. Everyone follows my path. You can only choose to walk towards Krishna or to turn away from Krishna and walk in a different direction. But the path that we're going to walk, even if you are non-devotee, is predetermined by Krishna. And the result of your activities are already set up by higher authorities. You can only choose which option to take, but the options are already given.
it's like a labyrinth.
Yeah, like a maze.
Once you are inside in some of the tunnels, that's it. Either you go ahead or you can come back, but basically your choice is predestined where you will go, where you reach. So something like that. You have 3 paths in material creation, basically, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And once you enter one of those tunnels, you're going in a certain direction.
So Prabhuji, can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Okay, so I think sometimes we understand, some people understand Krishna or God lives in higher planet, and how he can come as an incarnation, it's not possible. So that means this Ochinta Vedabhet Tattva doesn't work for them.
Yeah, that means they, because of their ancient or recent offenses against the Lord and the devotees, they cannot acquire Shraddha or faith.
Okay.
Therefore, they don't understand this. They don't accept it. And they have to wait for the causeless mercy of Ram Roy Prabhu.
Yeah.
Similar, preachers, devotees who expose them through the method of Agyata Sukriti, unconscious devotional service. They'll expose them to Krishna consciousness. They'll get gradually purified until at one moment in this life or the next life, they will acquire faith. And then they can surrender to Krishna.
And that's how they think Krishna is a king, was a king that time. He is a human.
Yeah.
How comes everything Gita is spiritual book or
They're
anything?
just-
They deny those.
They don't have the amount of piety, the required amount of piety to have faith. The fact that somebody has faith in Krishna means that Yesham Tvantagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmanam Tedvandva Moha Nirmuta Bhajante Mam Dhridavrata. That means that he has enough piety from previous lives or from this life, which allows him to have faith in Krishna. Otherwise, he's faithless. And we just heard about the faithless person. Ashradadana Purushasya Dharmasya Sya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivarpante Mrita Samsara Vartman. This is their fate.
Yes, they cannot surrender to Krishna. If you don't have faith, you won't take seriously with devotional service. That's the fact. That's why sometimes we see people are coming and they may do something in Krishna consciousness, and even they may look very, very, very enthusiastic, but at some point, very soon, they just disappear. Why is that? Because actually they never understood deeply the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and even more important, they never put their faith in this.
Yeah,
they came because
people dancing, let's dance.
Yes, they wanted to have some fun, and they saw devotees, they have fun, or just they were bored from the life and they wanted to experience something interesting, something new, or one reason or the other. But then as soon as something more interesting comes up in their life, they just say, okay, I don't need this anymore.
Okay.
They never took the time to really develop strong understanding, deep understanding, and increase their faith in the process of bhakti. And that's why they cannot seriously advance in this path.
Okay. Thank you.
So in verses 4 to 6, Krishna explained his involvement in the maintenance of the material world. Now in the next verses 7 and 8, Krishna explains the destruction of the creation. If you remember, similar things were explained in 7th chapter. Krishna is explaining also the destruction.
And 8.
And Krishna, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and 8 also, 8th chapter as well. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Arjuna now asks a question. I understand that everything is situated in you, but where will everything go at the time of annihilation? So Krishna answers in verse 7. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again, and under my will, it is annihilated at the end. So Krishna does not create the material world directly, but he just simply desires, and by his desire, Satya Sankalpa, his energy creates all this material variety. So this is a very important point to understand, because that means that Krishna remains always the same. He doesn't change. He's not transformed by this process of creation. And this is so important because this is the Mayavadi doctrine. The Vedanta explains that the Brahman is absolute, unchanged, not transformed. He cannot be transformed. Transformation meaning decay. That means material changes, birth, growth, then getting old, dwindling, and dying. So because we see that the material energy goes through these 6 changes, the Mayavadis quote the Upanishads where it is stated that Brahman is never transformed, and then their conclusion is that this is Vivartavada, it is technical term. Their conclusion is that this material creation doesn't actually exist. It is pure illusion. Why? Because Brahman cannot be transformed. We see that this material world is transformed all the time. Brahman cannot be transformed, so it must be illusion. This is their conclusion. It's called Vivartavada. So in order to establish this, they have to contradict Vyasadeva directly. Shankara contradicted Vyasadeva in his commentaries on Vedanta Sutra. He had to go against the incarnation of God. So our Vaishnava understanding, the proper understanding, is called Shakti Parinama Vada. Shakti means energy, Parinama means transformation, Vada means truth.
Theory.
Truth, yeah. Science. So that means that Krishna remains unchanged, but his energy transforms. But the energy may transform according to his will, but he doesn't transform. It is very important to understand. So Krishna creates and remains unchangeable at the same time. Although he uses his energy for the work of creation, he's independent from her. Today is the disappearance day of Shripat Madhvacharya, so we're going to quote from him in this regard. Madhvacharya explains in his commentary to verse 8 of chapter 9, his commentary on Bhagavad-gita. He says, the Lord's making use of Prakriti for the purpose of his purpose, of this purpose, is only by way of sport. It is a pastime. And he gives an example. Just as a person strong enough to walk by himself without support sometimes carries a stick while walking. He doesn't need to, but he just carries it. Just for him, it's fun. Okay, so this is how the Lord takes use of Prakriti in order to create the creation. Not that he needs. It's a relationship. He likes to do it with his devotees. Therefore, Prakriti is also devotee. She is the younger sister of Krishna.
Prakriti meaning the material energy of the
Yes, Durga. Okay. So this is Krishna's mystic opulence, Yoga Maishwaryam. Does this make any sense?
Haribo.
And then
Okay.
okay.
Mataji Pushpanjali, just because of this sweet spontaneous reaction, we will at the end we will repeat just for you, like a summary of the whole section.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Keep in mind that this is the Krishna himself. He says this is Yoga Maishwaryam. It is mystic opulence. It's not so easy to grasp.
Understand.
To get okay. Okay.
Okay. So Krishna continues, O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I'm ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. So this is here. It is important to understand that the Lord is neutral in the sense that he has no partiality or cruelty. He doesn't like particularly somebody, and he doesn't hate particularly anybody. He's equal to all. Still, to those who surrender to him, he is partial to them, because these are his devotees. And Prabhupada gives the example. The parent, he may have equal, he may behave equally with all the children that are playing under his supervision or her supervision, but naturally, he or she has specific attachment to his own children. So this is not a deficiency, this is not a discrepancy of the Lord. It is rather his greatest and most elevated quality, which is that he is very kind to his devotees. This neutrality of the Lord should not be misunderstood as inactivity. The Lord is never inactive. He's always active. Okay? Sri Prabhupada explains in the purport to verse 9, one should not think in this connection
So this is the purport to verse 9, just the beginning. One should not think in this connection that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no engagement. In his spiritual world, he is always engaged. In the Brahma Samhita 5:6, it is stated, Atma Ramasya Tasyasti Prakritya Na Samagama. He is always involved in his eternal, blissful spiritual activities, but he has nothing to do with these material activities. Material activities are being carried on by his different potencies. The Lord is always neutral in the material activities of the created world. This neutrality is mentioned here with the word Udasina Vat. Although he has control over every minute detail of material activities, he is sitting as if neutral.
Okay, so then Krishna explains, and of course he's not even, he doesn't say neutral, he says as if neutral. That's also interesting. Because still the Lord is not completely neutral, because complete neutrality would forbid any sense of doership by him. So therefore he says, I am seated as if neutral. Okay, then.
What is, dear devotees, what is the word for situated as of neutral from the verse? Give me the Sanskrit word.
What is the question? One more time.
What is the Sanskrit word from the verse describing that the Lord is situated as a neutral?
Udasina Vat.
Idasino Padashino. It's called Bhat here.
Okay. So remember, this is important word in this section.
We're not giving you any hint here regarding your examination. Don't take it in this way. Still, this is important word. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, then verse 10. Krishna says, this material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction. O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So it is the material energy that does the work. Krishna is independent. He has other things to do. Okay, so in the purport to this verse, Srila Prabhupada summarizes the relationship between Krishna and his energy. So we would like to read this. Because he glances over material nature, so maybe somebody can.
So, dear devotees, this is in the beginning of the purport. Someone wants to read, because he glances over material nature. Can you find it? He simply glances over material nature. Material nature is thus activated and everything is created immediately.
No.
Yes,
And-
Prabhuji, I found it.
And then the next sentence is...
Oh, okay. Because.
Can I go for? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. He simply glances over material nature. Material nature is thus activated, and everything is created immediately. Because he glances over material nature, there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, but he has nothing to do with the manifestation of the material world directly. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a fragrant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person, yet the smelling and the flowers are detached from one another. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with this material world, but he creates by his glance and ordains. In summary, material nature, without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot do anything, yet the Supreme Personality is detached from all material activities.
Okay, thank you. So in summary, material nature is under the control of Krishna. Without his control, she cannot do anything. Yet the Supreme Personality of God, he is detached from all material activities and he has his own blissful pastimes. This is a summary of whole section, this Yogam Aishwaryam, the Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. So, yes.
Back to Vatsala Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, we had a short discussion on these verses with you 2 days ago.
Prabhuji, which one, Prabhuji? Fourth and fifth?
Yeah, like the whole section, 9, 4 to. So is it clear now?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes.
So it's clear what means I'm staying aloof. Yes?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Basically, what Pandava Prabhu just said, that Krishna is in the spiritual world and he is engaging his blissful spiritual pastimes. But at the same time, through his energies, he's pervading
Everywhere.
the material world and he's controlling the material world as well.
Yes.
And whenever there is a pure devotion inside this material world, he appears personal also. No problem.
Yeah.
The story of this Brahmana who was in his meditation was offering sweet rice to the Lord, and then it was too hot and it burned his finger, etc. Krishna immediately came. Well,
Yes.
he sent the Vishnu Dutas. He took him to Vaikuntha. Prahlad Maharaj saw Krishna in the pillar. So many instances. Okay, now, yes.
More things. Also, back to Vatsala Prabhu, we had discussion on this verse from Brahma Samhita 2 days ago. Srishti
Yes.
Sthiti Pralaya
Iti
Sadhana.
pralaya sadhana shakti rekha.
So I
Yes.
think this verse and purport 10, it's answering your question actually. If you like, you can go more deeply through it, and then we can have.
Yes, 9.10, Prabhuji, you are saying?
Yes.
This one, because he glances over material nature.
The whole purport is describing
Oh.
exactly this,
Okay, Prabhuji.
what we are discussing. So you can go through it if you like, and then we can discuss it more. And then I just want to add something to this section. It's from purport to the verse 8. Srila Prabhupada is saying in the second paragraph, he's saying the activities of the different species of living beings are begun from the very moment of the creation. It is not that all is evolved. The different species of life are created immediately along with the universe. Men, animals, beasts, birds, everything is simultaneously created, because whatever desires the living entities had at the last annihilation are again manifested. It is clearly indicated here by the word avasam that the living entities have nothing to do with this process. So I was thinking this important point Srila Prabhupada is addressing, that it's not that the different species of life came by evolving from each other because of some external powers influencing them. No, rather from the beginning of the creation, from the beginning of the universe, there was different species of life because there was living entities with different desires. So I think this is quite important and significant in relationship with the Darwin's theory. And definitely, Srila Prabhupada is saying we don't support this view of the origin of the world.
But this is also, Prabhuji, there is a contradiction. We cannot even implement our like Krishna consciousness philosophy against the Darwin theory. You cannot stand in front of that. Because if we stand in front of that, there is going to be a conflict. Am I right?
Yes and no. I mean, the conflict was started by Srila Prabhupada.
Because it's happening in it's very religious and political. In my country, in the book 6th grade, they have Darwin theory, and our community, they tried to delete it from the book. They said this is not should be in the book, and now it's a big conflict. So just I know you heard about this or not, but it's going on.
Well, in Europe also, it's how to say, a discussed thing. It's not anymore obligatory to teach the kids this. It can be taught, but it's not 100% necessary, because I mean they're founding so many things that don't actually support this theory.
Yeah, so any
It's kind
theory.
of, yeah, it's like a gray area. We are just showing and presenting our viewpoint, which is based on the knowledge that Srila Prabhupada gave us. Or we don't have some idea to I mean, from one perspective, we have the idea to smash the theories of scientists, because Srila Prabhupada, he was saying that if we manage to prove how these theories are wrong, then people will more easily accept Krishna consciousness. Like, for example, just now during the break, we had a small talk with Radhashyam Prabhu, who is guest here in the temple. And he said that next time when he's coming to USA, he's planning to bring a few of his small books when these books are dealing with the specific doubts in the students. For example, Darwin's theory and so on and so on. And he was basically showing that if these doubts are addressed, then intelligent boys and girls in the society, they will much easily accept Krishna consciousness. And if let's say we say, yeah, oh, this is true, this is how the universe appears, why they have to accept and believe that everything was created by God? So immediately these theories kind of make them already atheist to some extent.
Yeah, this is really worst scenario going on now.
Although there are many people who believe in Darwin and also they believe in God. There are also these people, even some devotees.
But they don't deny the Darwin theory, so that's why they want to keep in the book. And now whoever believe in God, they totally deny. No, it's never possible. From the monkey, we are human being. So
Okay.
that is really big question.
Verses 11 to 15. So now after Krishna presented the knowledge, then just like in chapter 7, what happens? People react to this knowledge. And there are three types of reaction. You have the demons, you have the pure devotees, or the devotees in general, and then you have different types of worshippers.
In between these
in between. They worship the demigods, or they worship Brahman. So Krishna says, fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as Supreme Lord, the foe that be. So here I would like to read a purport from Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, in connection to this verse. Sri Prabhupada writes, less intelligent persons with a poor fund of knowledge cannot accommodate the thought of this inconceivable potency of the Lord Sri Krishna, by which he appears just like a human being. And at the same time, he is in control of everything. And at the same time, he's aloof and independent. That's too much. So he's human being, looks like he's a human being, he controls everything, and at the same time, he has his own blissful pastimes. So his appearance in the material world as one of us is also his causeless mercy upon the fallen souls. He is transcendental to all material conceptions, but by his unbounded mercy upon his pure devotees, he comes down and manifests himself as the personality of Godhead. Materialistic philosophers and scientists are too much engrossed with atomic energy and the gigantic situation of the universal form. So they are microbiologists or whatever, quantum physics, or they are like dealing with the universe as a whole, astrophysics, etc. And they offer respect more seriously to the external phenomenal feature of material manifestations than to the nominal principle of spiritual existence. So they are more concerned with the energy of the Lord. They are ignoring the origin of this energy. And even when they are trying to understand the energy of the Lord, they are only investigating the gross energy of the Lord. They have no clear idea about the subtle energy, neither about the spirit soul, not even about the ego or the intelligence or even the mind. There is a famous saying by Nikola Tesla. He said that if science stop ignoring the spiritual phenomena and start investigating them seriously, scientifically, then it will make more progress. For 10 years, it will make more progress than for hundreds of years before. This is one of their persons, one of their men is saying this. This is not us. One of their guys is saying this. It's always nice to quote one of their people on this topic, because it really gives them punch, you know. Because whatever we say, they always take it, these are these fanatical, sentimental people, religionists. But no, he's one of the greatest scholars. He said that. So the transcendental form of the Lord is beyond the jurisdiction of such materialistic activities. And it is very difficult to conceive that the Lord can be simultaneously localized and all-pervasive. So this is what Krishna explains just explained in the previous section, that he is localized and all-pervasive at the same time. Because the materialistic philosopher and scientists think of everything in terms of their own experience. So this is the core message here. Because of their own experience, because they are unable to conceive of being localized and all-pervasive at the same time, because they are unable to understand this, because they lack piety, therefore they try to impose this theory on everybody. So it is like a blind man to say that there is no sun, or it is like Prabhupada gives the Dr. Frog example. The frog living in the small well.
Do you remember the example, devotees?
He basically denies the existence of the ocean because it is beyond his own experience. Okay, you remember this? Does this make any sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay, such persons are bewildered in two ways. They do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord. They do not understand how his energies work, so they are confused. This muda, fools, they write me, avajinanti mam muda. They don't understand that Krishna's body is called manushim. Manusha means human, not because it has the limitations of the human body, but because he has an eternal form with human appearance, and because of his human-like activities. Because the human form, Krishna accepts this type of form. Well, this is his form. He doesn't accept it technically. But why human? Because in this human form, there is the widest, the biggest range of emotions that can be experienced. It's better than the demigod's form. It's better than all other forms in the universe. And because Krishna is rasa, he wants to have a relationship with his devotees. This is the best possible media by which he can attain his goal. So therefore, Manushya, human form. Because the demigods, they have mystic powers, you know. Krishna appears amongst them also. But the range of emotions and rasa that he can experience and enjoy is considerably less. Because demigods have mystic powers. They don't have to work like humans do in order to please somebody. And this diminishes the rasa. If you're demigod, you just, use your mystic powers. But that's not fun for Krishna.
Make a magic.
Yeah, make
and
like
the guy surrenders.
Harry Potter, just wave the magic wand. But Krishna, because he is the origin of all these mystic powers, he's not attached to this. For him, it's more fun to do something like, people also appreciate more if you did something personal for them. You cooked personally something for somebody, then he appreciates. Rather than going to the restaurant and buying something, that somebody else cooked. People appreciate more. Like you made something with your own hands for this person. So this is the human experience. it has more possibilities for exchanging deeper rasa.
Dear devotees, can you give me a verse, quote a verse that describes that although Krishna's form is human-like, still it's spiritual, it's transcendental. Give me some verse from Shastra.
Zirochyutam Rading. Some verse. I cannot remember the verse, but
What's the meaning?
Prabhuji, can you repeat again that he is spiritual and?
Although Krishna has a human-like form, his
Uh-huh.
body is completely spiritual and transcendental. Give me a verse from Shastra that proves this.
Isn't there a verse in Nectar of Instruction towards the end that says this similar? Am I right? Am I warm?
Instruction?
Not exactly.
Oh, sorry. Shri Upanishad.
No, Shri Upanishad last is something else.
Upanishad, yes. Yes.
Yes.
Shri Upanishad last one.
Yeah. Sorry. My mistake.
Shri Upanishad is good. Okay, I accept this. Then give me another verse. There is another very, very, very famous verse. All the devotees know this verse.
I guess not us.
Oh, one minute.
Oh, you know it, but you don't know that you know it. A verse that proves that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and his body is transcendental.
Prabhuji, like that.
Satchidananda
Janma
Vigraha.
karma cha me divyam.
Anadiradi Satchidananda Vigraham.
Yes, yes. Bhagavan Narahari Prabhu. He got
Anadi.
108.
Ishvara Parama Krishna. Anadiradi Satchidananda Vigraham.
So Krishna, he is the Supreme Ishvara and his body is Sat Chit Anand.
Ananda. Yeah.
Correct. But Bhaktavatsala's verse was also good.
But
also.
Prabhuji, then what about this? Param Brahma, Param Dana, Pavitram. See, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam transcendental.
Correct. Yes. Very good. Okay.
10.12.
I'm proud to have such a pandits in the Bhakti Shastra.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
We are merciful to discuss about with so pure devotees.
Okay. So these mudas, and with this will end. These mudas, they cannot conceive that Krishna, appearing like an ordinary human being, can be the controller of the microcosmic atoms and the gigantic universe at the same time. They cannot comprehend that he is controlling both the infinite and the minute, and is simultaneously aloof from them. Not possible. I cannot.
It's good magic. He is Virat Rupa and he is the minute and also he is alone.
In other words, such foolish persons do not understand Krishna's Yogam Aishvaryam, what he explained in the previous section. I mean, not in previous, in this section. Yes? In the previous section, sorry. So instead of accepting him how he is, as he is, they speculate that he is just a powerful man who has acquired some mystic powers by following karma and jnana. That's what they speculate, because of envy. Others think that the impersonal absolute truth has descended in the material world as an avatar with a material body. We discussed this in one of the previous chapters. There is a verse that Tulsi Prabhu emphasized to you that it is a very important verse to deal with Mayavadis. In this verse, Krishna said something that unintelligent thing that before Krishna was impersonal, and then I accepted this body, which is material.
Did you put this thing here?
Which verse?
We are listening, you guys talking.
It's hard.
Okay. So which number is the verse that Pandava just quoted? That we said it's a very powerful verse against the Mayavadi theory. It was from 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. Give me the number. Do you remember? Shall I help you?
Yes, please.
Okay. It's 7:24. Write it down. It's a very powerful verse to deal 7:24 to deal with the Mayavadi theory. Very powerful verse.
Okay, and then verse 12, Krishna describes what happens to those who deride Krishna's form. What happens to those mudas? Mogasha, moga karmano, moga jnana vichetta saha rakshasima surim chaiva prakritim mohinim shritaha. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demonic and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains what is the meaning of this. He says that if somebody doesn't accept that Krishna's form is spiritual, then what happens? If he's a devotee, Moga Asha, then he doesn't achieve Salokya or Samipya or whatever liberation he's aspiring for. He doesn't achieve it. If they are karmis, moga karma vichetasaka, then they do not attain svarga. If they are gyanis, moga jnana vichetasaka, then they don't attain liberation. They don't attain all of these results. Then what do they attain? They assume the nature of rakshasas, so they become rakshasas, man-eaters. So this is the result of being envious of Krishna.
Wow. So basically, if you don't accept the personal existence of the Lord and personal form of the Lord, that means you cannot achieve success
Anything.
in any place.
So then the position of the pure devotees is described in verse 13. Those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. And then verse 14 describes the activities. You remember we spoke about the activities of the soul. So these are the activities of the soul, the most confidential knowledge. All is chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. And then the last verse of this section describes the worshippers, those who are not the Mahatmas, and they are not amongst the demons necessarily, but they worship the Lord indirectly. And there are three types of those. The first is the one who worships himself as God. So he may become one of those demons. He may turn into Rakshasa if he's not careful. And then the one who concocts some form of the Supreme Lord and worships that. These are the demigod worshippers. And the one who accepts the universal form, the Vishvarupa, as the Supreme Lord and worships that. These are the pantheists. So these are the three types of indirect worshippers. So
maybe next time we can.
So then,
go more in.
Yeah, next time we will speak more about this. And yeah, and then the next section, Krishna will discuss how those who worship the universal form as Krishna, how they can actually recognize Krishna in the universal form. In other words, how they can become from impersonalists, they can become personalists, because Krishna is what is attractive ultimately to them. They are actually attracted to Krishna as a person, but they don't know this. So Krishna gives them tips how they can become aware that it is him, actually. It is Krishna to whom they are attracted, actually. And then Krishna also describes demigod worshippers. But we'll deal with this the next time, okay? Hare Krishna.
So dear devotees, please for the next time, start reading from verse 13 onwards, if you didn't do that. And then also we will send you your essay or essays. So whoever has time can start writing those. And I hope that you have time also to answer your closed book questions. Of course, at the end, we will give you some time once we finish these chapters from 7 to 12. We'll give you some time for preparation, like always. But already now you can gradually start. Anyway, you are reading the chapter. So you can start answering your closed book questions, and then it will be easier for you later.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So
Thank you.
we'll see you again tomorrow
Hare
evening.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Om
You
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Ram,
Rama
Ram
Rama,
Ram,
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Prabhupada ki jai.
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 Jai, 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 Gopal.
Hari Hari Bol.
It's